Hey, how's it going? So my first review is going to be on Walther's most recent polymer frame striker-fired 9mm handgun, the PDP. The PDP is an evolution of the PPQ, so close in fact that the slides and frames of the same size handguns are compatible with one another. PDP is an acronym for Performance Duty Pistol, and it comes feature-packed with badass PDT, Performance Duty Trigger, Performance Duty Texture, and Super Terrain Serrations on the slide. It's like Walther tried to create as many trademarked features as possible in one single weapon. As cringe as a lot of the marketing is around this pistol, it's actually really nice and I quite enjoy it. Comes in a plastic hard case that has Super Terrain Serrations on the outside of the case. You know, just in case you spill your 55-gallon barrel of lube on it. Comes with 3 back straps, a gun lock, 2 magazines, and pretty much everything else you would expect to come with a new pistol. The smallest back strap fits my hand the best, and replacing it is as easy as knocking out a coil pin. There are many sizes available, 4-inch, 4.5, and 5-inch. I went for the 5-inch because it looked the coolest, and that's all that matters. The Performance Duty Texture is actually very nice, and really digs into your hand in the best way possible. If you have soft femboy hands, it might be too aggressive, but for my super manly hippie hands, it feels great, and I've never felt any kind of slipping or sliding during fire. The Super Terrain Serrations are also very nice, allowing easy slide manipulation without any fear of getting a weak grip or slipping after your 55-gallon drum of lube, as I mentioned earlier. The Performance Duty Trigger is nice. Definitely nicer than most striker-fired guns I've shot, but it still can't beat a single-action hammer pull. Not that I think anyone would expect it to. It has a bit of creep, but then a clean break and a short reset. You can get an upgraded trigger from Walther with probably some other cringy acronym, but this trigger is nice enough and I don't really see the need to replace it. Alright, forgive the mess. We are clear. We're going to ghost that trigger. So, we have the initial take up there until you hit the wall. And it's a little bit of a creep there, just a little bit. But then it's just beautiful. Right there on the wall. Pressure. Pressure. Nothing. Yeah, depending on how you pull it, there's either a tiny bit of creep or none at all. The reset, you just wait. Right there. It's right where that wall is. So that is an excellent reset, and that's a pretty damn good trigger. Another thing to note is that the rifling in the barrel is polygonal. Neat. In terms of shootability, one of the most notable features of the PDP is its lightweight with the 5-inch full-size pistol weighing in at 26.9 ounces. For comparison, a Glock 17 with its 4.5-inch barrel weighs 32.2 ounces. It's a pretty significant advantage in weight, and is also one of the PDP's biggest flaws in my opinion. The recoil is kinda snappy. With training, of course, you can still make great hits quickly, but it definitely deserves a mention. This wouldn't be a pistol I would particularly recommend to a new shooter if they aren't accustomed to handgun recoil yet. There are ways to increase the mass of the pistol, such as a brass backstrap, but that's intentionally reversing one of the key features of the PDP in order to tame recoil. What I did was get a weapon light, specifically a TLR-1HL, and threw it on the gun. Man, it tamed recoil quite well. With this method, you're gaining capability for the increased weight, instead of adding weight just to reduce recoil. There are also steel and tungsten guide rods available that achieve a similar effect. Now onto the sights. The iron sights out of the box are Glock-compatible 3-dot sights. These work fine and are adjustable for both windage and elevation, but I'm a fan of red dots, so after a few hundred rounds, I switched to a Holosun 507C. Speaking of which, the PDP is optics ready out of the box, but actually not. When you buy your handgun, you will get a code that you can redeem on Walther's website to get a free optics adapter plate sent to you. I went with the RMR footprint adapter plate, and it arrived about a week later. This method likely saves the customer and Walther a bit of money, but it is kind of a bummer to have to wait a week to be able to mount a dot to this gun. I also had a little oopsie that cemented Walther's customer service is pretty damn good in my opinion. While I was waiting for my dot to show up, I took off the little cover plate that mounts where the adapter plate would be and kept on shooting. After about 50 rounds, I noticed that my extractor had fallen out. But the gun kept running. Okay, so we got a Walther PDP full size, 5-inch, and we do not have an extractor. No extractor here, folks. It just doesn't give a shit. It still runs. I don't know how that works, but it's pretty neat. Turns out the plate covers up the extractor pinhole, so make sure not to shoot it without a plate on it. I found the extractor, but the pin and spring were gone, lost to the ether. I contacted Walther, and they had a new spring and pin to me within a week, even though it was entirely my negligence that they got lost in the first place. W customer service. I've had no issues with the optic losing zero, so the mounting solution, despite missing a recoil lug, seems to be working just fine. If memory serves, the newer PDPs have a redesigned interface that incorporates a recoil lug, but either way, this seems to work just fine. Now on to reliability. Reliability has been flawless with the PDP. I've put over 2,500 rounds of everything from CCI aluminum to 115 grain steel-cased Wolf to SIG 124 grain V-Crown, and it has eaten everything I've thrown at it. The only stoppages I experienced were my own fault. The extended slide release lever is pretty big, and sometimes I accidentally press on it when firing quickly with a tight grip, causing the slide to lock prematurely. Other than that, and the occasional dud round, which isn't the pistol's fault, I've had zero issues with reliability. Another thing to note is that I clean my guns pretty regularly, so I didn't do any extensive no cleaning phase with this pistol to test how it performs when it's all gunked up, but at least clean, it's been flawlessly reliable. The disassembly of the PDP is somehow easier than a Glock. You just clear the gun, always clear the gun, pull down on these tabs and pull the trigger, and off comes the slide. Because I'm potentially psychotic, I've been carrying the full-sized 5-inch PDP all seasons for about the last year and a half. It's honestly pretty comfortable to carry IWB despite its size, but I'm a big dude, so your results may vary. Only issue I have is with the performance duty texture. It's quite abrasive to your side, unsurprisingly, so a holster with a side panel would be ideal. I've been carrying it in a chopped up Glock 17 holster that really doesn't fit the PDP, but I've worn it in enough that it fits and is by the grace of God safe to carry. I don't recommend you do this at all, but this does, go into another good point. Holster availability. Holsters for the PDP are available, but obviously not at the same level of other popular handguns. Everyone makes Glock holsters, and you can get a good Glock holster for cheap. With a PDP, you have far more limited options. You could go the route of a light-bearing holster, but then you're locked into carrying with a light all the time. Walther has a section on their website where they list many third-party holster manufacturers that make holsters for the PDP. So that's probably a good place to start. On to my complaints, which are really few. All I have is that the gun rattles quite a bit whenever you don't have a magazine in, or you put an empty magazine in. We're clear. It's like a woman's best friend. Oh, let's get that in there. This rattle goes away when you put a loaded mag in, but I felt it needed mention. The only other issue I've run into is one of the two provided magazines sometimes doesn't lock back on empty, but that also could be me interfering with the slide lock, so I don't know if that's a point against Walther, but again, just figured I'd mention it. Despite the excellent grip texture, I also feel that the grip is just too large. I have medium-sized hands, so maybe that's the issue, but honestly, it just feels like a little bit too much to grab onto. The PDP-F has a slimmer grip, so maybe that would be better, but I'm more interested in a full-size pistol, personally. Speaking of variants, there are several variants of the PDP, from 4-inch, 4.5-inch, 5-inch, the PDP-F with a slimmer grip, and overall smaller size, and you also have the quote-unquote compact frame. The compact frame takes it from a Glock 17 size and goes down to a Glock 19 size, which is, I guess, technically more compact, but calling it compact is interesting. Forgot to mention, the F in PDP-F stands for female, because only women could possibly enjoy such a small gun. Motion in the ocean, fellas. There's also the PDP Pro SD with a flared magwell for gamer reloads and a threaded barrel for mounting the obnoxious compensator of your choice. Or a suppressor, which, If they ever sell a threaded barrel for the 5-inch slide, I'm definitely going to get it and shoot a whole lot suppressed, but I also might get an aftermarket threaded barrel. The problem is, they're like $300 fucking dollars, but that looks like my only option if I want to suppress this pistol as is. Once my 9mm suppressor is approved, I'll consider it. One final little interesting note is that I tried my dad's CZ75 magazines and my Beretta 92 magazines in this gun, and both fed, but neither would lock into the frame. So what you have to do is apply pressure to the bottom, and voila, it'll feed. But in conclusion, the Walther PDP is a solid polymer frame striker-fired pistol that can be had for around $600 new. It's overall an improvement over a Glock, but not by any significant margin. Some people are hyping this gun up to be the second coming of Christ, and that just isn't the case. If you're bored of Glocks and want a solid gun to spice things up, this will be a great choice, but if you suck with a Glock, you're going to suck with a PDP. Get out there and train, touch grass, run some timed and scored drills, and have fun. Take care.